online for what I hope will be our first and last council meeting in caretaker period. Agenda item 1 is the acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first peoples of the country. We also acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respect to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. Agenda item 2 is apologies, leave of absence and attendance by electronic means. Our leave of absence has been granted to Councillor Cowan at the last meeting, but Councillor Cowan has also requested a further period of leave from the 22nd of September to the 17th of October. And Councillor Hall has requested leave of absence for the period of the 22nd of September to the 1st of October. There is a motion there that leave of absence be granted to Councillor Cowan for the period from the 22nd of September to the 17th of October, and leave of absence be granted to Councillor Hall for the period from the 22nd of September to the 1st of October. Is there a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Knight. Second. Councillor Quilty, all those in favour? Carried. It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 3 is the Good Governance Pledge, and Councillor Aldridge has volunteered to read that.
Wodonga councillors have committed to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the municipal community, abide by the model councillor code of conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the model councillor code of conduct, faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the office of councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Agenda item 4 is the declaration of conflict of interest, and none are known at this time. Are there any conflicts of interest in relation to the agenda? No. Which then leads us to agenda item 5, which is a confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. There's a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on August the 25th as attached be received and confirmed as an accurate record. Do you have a mover for that motion? Councillor Aldridge, seconder. Councillor Knight. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 6 is question time, and there are no provisions for questions during caretaker period. Agenda item 7 is petitions, and there are no petitions that have been submitted. And likewise under agenda item 8, there are no delegates' reports. Which then leads us to agenda item 9, which is the financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2025. We have a recommendation there before us. Would someone like to move that or an alternative?
Sorry, yes, I can move that.
Thank you, Councillor Knight, moving the motion as recommended. And a seconder, Councillor Quilty.
Is it appropriate seconded?
This is a governance question from Councillor Quilty. Given that Councillor Quilty is mentioned under section 3 of the recommendation as a signatory to this financial statements, is it appropriate to Councillor Quilty second it?
I'm happy to second it. I just won't speak to the motion. If you
Listed as
that. Yep, okay, I will second the motion.
Councillor Aldridge to second it but not speak to the motion. Councillor Knight.
I would just be referring to the summary that the report has been prepared in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020. The report indicates the following results for a 2024-25 financial year of a total income revenue of $103.47 million, total expenses of $77.43 million, and a surplus before revaluation gain of $26.036 million. A total comprehensive result, including the revaluation gain of $134.839 million. The underlying result is there for everyone to read. I won't keep reading it all, but yes, and I'll probably pass to Councillor Quilty for her expertise in all of this anyway after Councillor Aldridge.
So Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Crotty is the only councillor here tonight who's on the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. Would you like to speak to the item? To the motion? The second is said that they won't.
Yeah, I won't speak to the motion. So I'll leave it to the expertise of Councillor Quilty.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Knight, for moving, and Councillor Aldrich for seconding, and for giving me the benefit of the doubt of calling me an expert, of which I'm not. However, I'm privileged to be on the Audit and Risk Committee. I would like to firstly acknowledge the hard work of my colleague, Deputy Mayor Councillor Cowan, who is also representing the Council on Audit and Risk Committee, and I would like to acknowledge our finance team for doing all the hard work, bringing the reports to the Audit and Risk Committee. Basically, the result of the Audit and Risk Committee has been highlighted in the summary and cited by Councillor Knight, which is the surplus before exclusion of revaluation gain of 26 million. There are items for your attention that are not to be looked at in terms of the rules of putting the financials together. Just trying to speak in simple terms, such as a federal assistance grant that was timed between financial years and therefore needs to be excluded. There is a contribution of funds by developers that will need to be used to build roads and other infrastructure. There is non-monetary contribution of 10 million that we account for, but because it's not in cash but in, so to say, benefits, we take it out. And there are some capital grants included there. So we are left with not very large underlying surplus of 1.9 million, which is probably not as high as we budgeted for previously when building the budget for this year. However, we're in the black and healthy. We have a healthy cash position of just under 21 million and a healthy working capital ratio of 3.75. As far as the assurance of these documents, the financial statements and the performance statement for the year is concerned, it has been through, performance statement is next item, the financial statements. Financial statements have been put before the Audit and Risk Committee. After they were audited, the Victorian Auditor General appoints a local firm in a firm with an office in Albury, Findex, that does the job of reviewing and auditing our financial statements for the Victorian Auditor General. Victorian Auditor General are still looking, checking the work.
3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The Findex have done. Therefore, what we have in front of us is the draft. But the draft that we are reasonably certain is not going to change much. Any changes are going to be immaterial. Therefore, one of the points in the recommendation is to authorize our CEO to authorize any immaterial changes. We don't expect any material changes. Any immaterial changes that may or may not happen to financial statements after the Office of the Victorian Auditor General have had a look at it. And due to the absence of leave of Councillor Cowan, we suggest that I sign the report along with him.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crotty. Before going to Councillor Knight for a right reply, I do have a question of Officer Bill, if I may, and it's really one of clarification. And if I could just bring people's attention to page 9 of 58 of the annual financial statements, or page 50 of 196 of the council pack. Under cash flows from operating activities, Officer Quill, there's a line item there of other payments, which is circa $1 million. And it's different to what was provided in our budget statements for 25, which I recall being 3.9 million circa. Could you please explain that difference and why the difference?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. First of all, the financial report in front of us is canvassing the actuals from last year, whereas our budget papers are canvassing projections for next year. In relation to the variance between the projections for next year and the actual for this year, we use a third-party tool to build our projections across the next 10 years. That third-party tool attributes some custom items to other payments in the cash flow statement. In the budget papers, that in the financial statements, we attribute to more detailed categories. So, for example, the budget papers have our work cover insurance premium attributed to other payments in the cash flow statement, whereas in our financial statements, which are more detailed, that amount is attributed to employee costs. And that's the reason for the variance.
Yes.
The cash flow statement also is just simply summing up the transactions moved through the profit and loss statement. And I would suggest people primarily use the profit and loss statement as the key tool to assess where council's revenue and expenses have been derived from and spent.
Good. And also just Officer Quill, understanding that not only has the external auditor signed off on these financial statements, VAGO, Victorian Auditor General, Audit and Risk, all three have signed off on these for recommendation to council today.
That's absolutely right. So after the Audit and Risk Committee meeting that we held last week, the Victorian Auditor General has confirmed in writing that they have cleared the audit, and so they've now given us consent for signing, which means there won't be any further changes, and essentially all the signatures will now be affixed and the audit completely closed, assuming that council endorses the financial statements tonight.
Great, thank you. Officer Knight, right of reply to your moving motion.
Councillor, that's okay. No, I'm all good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. If that's, and Councillor Aldridge, you're all good. That being the case, I'm going to put it now to a vote in relation to the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Agenda item 9.2 is the performance statement for the year ended 30th of June 2025, and it's also been for audit and risk. There is a recommendation there before us. Got a mover for that.
I'm happy to move again.
Councillor Knight, as recommended, and a seconder.
I'm happy to second.
Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak?
I'm happy to give my time to Councillor Quilty.
Councillor Aldridge.
I too am happy to give my time to you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move to Councillor Quilty, and I'll have some questions after Councillor Quilty's comments or questions. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you very much, everyone. My apologies for previous item because I was the first one really speaking. I forgot I had 3 minutes, not 5. But really not very much to add. Same story as with the financials. The hard work of the finance department, then audited by the representative appointed by Victorian Auditor General Office, then the appointee of Victorian Auditor General Office presents their unqualified report along with the financials to Audit and Risk Committee. Audit and Risk Committee has looked through the performance statement. The performance statement actually is not just financial performance, which is not only how we're doing financially. It also talks about our service performance indicators, such as, for example, how our aquatic facilities are doing, how animal management facilities are doing, and other things like health and safety, food, etc. How we're doing financially. Such as effectiveness and efficiency ratio, liquidity ratio, I'll just stop there, and sustainability capacity indicators, so how sustainably we are running our affairs for the future. Again, unqualified report, and happy to go ahead and endorse.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. And as Councillor Quilty said, it's not just a financial performance, it's also a service performance. And I actually think this is one of the best documents Council produces. You can really geek out on certain data there, assuming it's accurate. You know, whether it's the leisure centre or our planning or any of the other services that Council delivers, not just the financials. I do have some questions. Some around financials and some around our service levels. Section 3, so page 114 of the council papers. It's to do with revenue levels and average rates received per rateable property. And while I understand, Officer Quill, that this document works to a template provided and prescribed to us by Victorian government. You know, I think I've raised this before in some of our budget discussions that sometimes averages can be misleading as opposed to medians. Can you talk about what, you know, can skew data? Can you talk about what efforts council may be endeavouring to address that by the use of a median measure rather than average? Maybe not in this report, but in other reports, whether they be our budget documents or otherwise.
Thank you for the question. You are correct in the fact that this particular template isn't open for us to adjust. However, we certainly have taken on board Councillor in areas around a median for this particular metric, and we will include that in our budget papers moving forward. So that will start very soon, going into latter part of this year, early next year, and then be available for the public in outer years to be able to show those two statistical differences in the mathematics behind the calculation.
And also, Councillor Quilty mentioned under 9.1 our liquidity ratios, which is current assets to current liabilities. And I know that this measures can be very contextual. You know, might depend on what sort of capex we might have in the year coming, in terms of needing to provide working capital. But is there a sort of a benchmark that local government sort of points to in terms of what is an ideal liquidity ratio, all things being equal?
There's no official benchmark that's set by the state government. However, it is our recommendation of a target between 1.5 and 2, given the size of the organisation and the fact that it doesn't have the capacity, unlike a public or private company, to access capital from the market.
Yeah.
That higher figure is needed to ensure that the organisation remains in a stable position. The other thing that I would point to is not just looking at the figure at this point in time, but looking at the forecast, so across the next 10 years. And so whilst we do have a pleasing 3.75% liquidity ratio at the moment, you'll see across our forward estimates that that ratio, for example, by 2029 drops to 1.6, and that's because we have quite a significant forward capital program to put infrastructure on the ground, particularly as a result of the growth in Geneva and Baranduda. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is not just the current ratio as of today, but to look right across the plan. And so on the council's website, those figures for the next 10 years forecast are available for the community, and the next forecast figures for 4 years are in this document, which is as per the state government model.
Thank you, Officer Quill. Last question, and thank you for your indulgence. It's probably a question to Director Schultz regarding statutory planning. There's a measure in there regarding planning permits decided within relevant times, and I think the result being 63% versus our target 75%. And I note the rationale there being the complexity of some of the planning permits that we've received over the last 12 months. One, did you want to talk to that? And two, around the complexity of the permits, and two, what remedial actions council might be embarking upon to help get that closer to target?
Mr. Mayor, thanks for the question. The complexity of the applications are particularly relevant to the growth, the housing residential growth in the Geneva Baranduda. What we're finding is that there are applications being made that consist of perhaps hundreds of houses for assessment. These are complex. Ordinarily, a council of our size is dealing with subdivision requests that may be 20 or 30 at a time. These are considerably larger than that, staged in most cases. We're also spending more time in assisting and being collaborative with developers and their agents in ensuring that we are getting the best possible outcomes within that growth area. Recognizing all of that, we've certainly looked inwards as well, and we have determined that perhaps some of our own processes may not necessarily be aligned to expediting these complex planning applications. And with that in mind, the CEO has engaged or has initiated a service review for council's statutory planning functions. We have gone to the market. The assessments currently being completed, and we anticipate an award being made of a successful contractor, a consultant, probably by the end of next Friday, early October. That process itself, there's a comprehensive scope of works, which will include numerous discussions with the industry itself to understand what their requirements are and how we may be able to adopt, modify our internal processes to assist.
Thank you very much, Director Schultz. Councillor Knight, I don't have any other questions on Councillor Aldridge.
Please.
No right of reply, no. That being the case, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour as recommended, that's unanimous, carried unanimous. Thank you. Moving to agenda item 9.3, Asset Plan 2025. Again, there's a recommendation before us.
Yeah.
Councillor Aldridge is the mover and a seconder, Councillor Knight. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak to that?
Did you need me to read out the recommendation or?
No, because it's been published. You don't need to read.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so the draft asset plan provides a clear community-facing overview of how council will manage our roads, bridges, buildings, stormwater, pathways, parks and public spaces over the next decade. It ties in with our long-term financial and capital planning, helping council balance service delivery, sustainability and financial responsibility. And the purpose of the plan is to improve transparency around the assets we manage, explain the costs and challenges involved, and ensure our decisions reflect community needs and expectations. And by putting this draft out for public exhibition, we're inviting the community to provide feedback so that the final plan is well informed and responsive.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Knight, seconder? No. Would any other councillor like to speak to this item? I'm good as well. That being the case, I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9.4 is the sale of land at Baranduda Boulevard, part of Lot 1, opportunity site. There's a recommendation there before us. Do I have a mover as recommended? Councillor Cooley. So I don't know who had their hand up first.
Oh, I didn't know, I didn't see, so but I was going to move an alternative.
Okay. Do you want to move?
Thank you.
What's the alternative?
The alternative is to defer the decision on this item until after the caretaker period and once the new council is elected.
Yeah, okay, so that's the motion. We need a seconder for that motion, alternative motion. Is there a seconder? In the event that this motion lapses or fails, is there something like to someone foreshadow?
I'll foreshadow the motion recommended.
So I'm just confirming, is there a seconder to Councillor Cooley's alternative motion? No second. So that motion is lapsed. Councillor Cooley, thank you. Which means we're now back to the original recommendation. So Councillor, would you like to?
The recommendation is to finalise the sale of a 2.19 hectare parcel of land on Baranduda Boulevard to North East Water. North East Water intend to use the site for a pump station.
Oh, yes. So, sorry, just appreciate your enthusiasm. So you're moving that, and we need a second.
Oh, second.
And then you can speak
Yeah.
to the Councillor Aldridge. So Councillor Aldridge having moved it, seconder Councillor Knight. Councillor Aldridge, apologies, if you could now speak to the motion.
Yeah, so just to recap the recommendations to finalise the sale of a parcel of land on Baranduda Boulevard to North East Water. You intend to use the site for a pump station, which is a vital piece of infrastructure to support the ongoing growth of the Leneva Baranduda area. This sale has been carefully considered with land values independently assessed and the proposal discussed at a previous council meeting. And approving this sale enables North East Water to get on with delivering the infrastructure our growing community needs.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Knight.
I'm just happy to see it to be used. It was always intended to be the pump station. The values were good for what we're getting is very exceptional, considering that there would be nothing else there but the pump station. Yeah, I think that we need it to continue with the growth of Leneva in Baranduda. Arguing over a few dollars is not the way to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Coulson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the previous speakers. While I have no argument against the statements that there is infrastructure that is needed for further development of Leneva Baranduda, and that it was previously meant to be for this particular piece of infrastructure. I, however, think that it is a very important and vital decision. I respectfully disagree with the statement that we're going to argue with a few dollars. We are talking about selling land at a rather low price to a state government department. Therefore, subsidizing a state government department, I'm sure it's not our role to take away from our ratepayers to help state government. While there are certain benefits that may come out of this infrastructure, I believe that we can do better. I believe that there are other opportunities for Northeast Region Water to buy in the area, maybe a bit more expensive. And because it is for me, it is a serious issue, and I believe that it needs to be considered by full set of council, regardless they appear to make any further trouble. I would like to foreshadow that I will move within 24 hours for decision of this motion, should it come.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Coulson. I'm going to ask some questions, perhaps of the CEO. This site, can you talk about its history in terms of whether the extent to which it was identified as a bit of land required for infrastructure for North East Water in precinct structure plan for Baranduda and Leneva?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. It is identified. Officer Schultz can give the detail of the PSD. And the fact that that land is owned by council is identified there.
And Councillor Courtney mentioned the low price, and without sort of breaching confidentiality, did an officer want to respond to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council has obtained an independent valuation, and that has been presented to the council as in confidential, and that was considered prior to making the previous resolution to go out on public exhibition about that matter.
Right. Thank you. And if I could, assuming this were to pass and Councillor Courtney were to foreshadow a motion regarding rescission, could you just talk through what that process would be?
So our rescission motion will require 3 councillors to support that. So Councillor Coulty will initiate that process. If 2 other councillors support that, then that matter will come back before council. And in the interim, it won't be able to be implemented. However, a foreshadowing of that motion doesn't require any stopping of that process. We have to have all 3 councillors in.
Right, I understand that. Good. Councillor Aldridge, right to reply. Right. With all councillors having spoken and asked questions, I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Knight, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goble. All those against, Councillor Quilty. Thank you very much. The motion is carried. Agenda item 9.5 is the sale of land. Lot 1 being part of 26 Stanley Street. And again, apologies, but I'm reading this and I note 2 hands are up, but I didn't see who was first. There's a recommendation there before us. Did anyone see who was first there? Sorry, just trying to respect timing.
Yeah.
Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Coulty was first last time. Now I'm going to go to you, Councillor.
Yeah, just move a motion as recommended.
Good, thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Knight. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak to 9.5?
So this recommendation is to proceed with the sale of land at 26 Stanley Street to Junction Support Services for the purpose of developing a new city centre office complex. And I think, firstly, it's important to acknowledge the history of this site. For many in our community, this parcel of land holds special memories as the home of Wodonga's pool, which was first opened, and I'll need to fact check this, in 1959 and was demolished in 2013 when our new aquatic centre Waves was built. I myself remember going to movie nights as a teenager in the pool. We had great times and it was such a simpler time. There were no camera phones or anything like that. So there's no evidence, which is fantastic. There's real sadness in the community when the pool closed, and over the years, different ideas for the site have been raised, including hospital or new recreational facilities. And while the reality of the site's future is different, it is significant that Junction Support Services, an organisation that provides vital support to people in our community, will make it their home. Their new complex will centralise operations and improve the delivery of services while also contributing to the activity and growth of this CBD precinct.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Knight, please, seconder.
Yeah, once again, this is moving forward for Wodonga as far as I can see. The value of land, obviously people will come up with that, but this is once again being over 10 years that empty lot's been sitting there. But I think it's become a bit of an eyesore. There's been a few other attempts to sell. I think the last council gave out an offer that they could refund the money and something along those lines back. I can't remember exactly. But I think this is a good outcome for us because it's $2.2 million. So it's moving forward. It's going to instill confidence. We're going to get our city centre. We're moving people down from Melbourne Road to an office block in town. There's more cafes going to open. It's going to, revitalise our city centre. People are going to be able to leave the office and do their quick shopping down the street for High Street. Our junction place will be, be active, more active, and as more buildings come along, I think it will encourage more usage. And we still have another 4,100 metres square available for sale, and I think this will encourage those people to activate that area, which will bring up, once again, more confidence in people that we're actually moving forward and not just sitting around waiting for the best offer for 10 years. It's fine.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Coulty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Knight and Councillor Aldrich. Councillor Aldrich, my special thanks for the excursion into the history of the place. As many of you know or might guess, I was not born here and I wasn't here to witness or use the what was previously a swimming pool, and sounds like a great facility. I love listening to those stories from the eyewitnesses. While I didn't grow up here, my children are, and they will benefit from listening to those stories too. As far as the prospective purchaser junction support services, again, notwithstanding the great support that they are going to provide to this section of the community, my concern here is about the whole community at large. I think we are selling for too low, and given that we are in the current not very favorable economic climate, and we are trying not to raise rates too much. I'm sure everybody wants to stay at least under the at least at the cap. Selling land for less than we can sell is, I think, not the best idea and not the best look. And we always have to look at what we are going to receive after sales, such as rates, etc. So in my opinion, it is vital to have all councillors on board, the full set of councils, before we make the decision, the final decision on the sale. I was going to move deferring this position until the new council. However, given this the way the recommendation has gone, I regret to foreshadow that I will use the same scenario and I'll put in for a rescission of this motion within 24 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Before I go to Councillor Aldridge, I just note that this land has been on the market in multiple forms for, I think, well beyond 10 years. In fact, I think I recall formal expression of interest that Council ran on CBD West, which involved all three parcels of land, including 26 Stanley Street. I think it was 2009, 2010, which failed to attract an appropriate purchaser. And from 2010 to 2016, there were a number of times that council put this land to the market in different forms, using, I recall, an agent at one period of time. It's undergone some soft expressions of interest and engaged with multiple parties from 2010 to as late as 2024. And I note in late 2024, council received interest from a number of parties. And we, through a council resolution, delegated to the CEO to negotiate a better outcome. And in March this year, in a item which was within confidential, agreed to embark upon an intent to sell the land subject to council and statutory processes, being public notice. And that process has concluded, and as you'll see in the paper there is no submissions either for or against the sale. Being mindful of this property being on the market for a substantial period of time, it pleases me to see an organisation like Junction Services that deliver an incredible benefit to our community on so many fronts, that has both the capacity and capability to be able to execute on this transaction subject to council's decision. But I would like to seek some advice from the CEO just regarding a decision like this in caretaker, and whether there are any either legislative or governance rules that council has that would prohibit this decision being made tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In accordance with the caretaker statement at the beginning of this report, it is consistent with the Local Government Act and consistent with council's election period policy. Might also note that as per the governance rules, if I don't have 3 councillors supporting a rescission motion. By the time I arrive at work on Wednesday morning, I'll proceed acting on the item as is expected by the councillors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm going to Councillor Aldridge for a right of reply.
Nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That being the case, I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goble, all those against? Councillor Quilty, thank you very much. The motion is carried. Agenda item 10 is reports for noting. There are none. Agenda item 11 is reports for information, and again, there's two reports there, 11.1, 11.2. Record, having a slight problem with my iPad, apologies, but any questions on 11.1? For information only? No? If I can move to 11.2, decisions register. Again, for information only, any questions or comments on 11.2? No? It's noted. Which now leaves us to agenda item 12, notices of motion. There are no provisions for questions during the caretaker period and no provision for notice of motion. Likewise, agenda item 13, for general business. Again, under the caretaker's provision, no provision for general business during the caretaker period. Agenda item 14 is urgent business, of which there is none. Agenda item 15, confidential business, there is none. Agenda item 16, confidential urgent business, again, none. Which leads me to the closure of the meeting. Just noting the time, being 6:42 p.m. If I could declare the meeting closed. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Thank you for those in the gallery attending tonight, those online, councillors and staff, much appreciated. See you in October.